My future mother-in-law pointed her champagne flute right at me and smirked. "Honestly," she said to the whole table, "I don't know what he sees in her. She's pathetic." The table, filled with my fiancé's pristine old money family, turned to him, waiting, expecting him to defend me. Instead, he laughed. A deep, hearty laugh that made my blood run cold. "Don't worry," he said, patting my hand like I was some nervous little pet. "She's weak. She'll never leave." That was the moment the hurt inside me didn't just break. It crystallized into something cold, hard, and sharp. That was when I decided I wouldn't just leave him. I would burn their entire world to the ground. And I knew exactly who to ask for a match. The whole scene was our engagement party, a ridiculous affair at the Preston family estate. Everything was designed to scream power, from the towering floral arrangements to the condescending smiles on every guest's face. The Prestons were a dynasty built on ruthless business deals and social climbing. I, on the other hand, was from a normal middle-class family, a fact his mother, Eleanor, never let me forget. She made it clear she saw me as a temporary amusement for her son, Mark. For months, I'd put up with their little digs and backhanded compliments. They treated me like a naive outsider, a silly girl playing dress-up in their world of generational wealth. I kept telling myself it was just a test, that if I could be patient and prove I loved Mark, they'd eventually accept me. I was such a fool. That pathetic comment wasn't some slip of the tongue. It was a statement. It was meant to put me in my place, to remind everyone at that table that I was completely disposable. But it was Mark's laugh that really cut the last thread of hope. He didn't just fail to defend me. He co-signed their cruelty. He was one of them, through and through. Later that night, he found me after I'd escaped to a quiet corner of the garden. He wasn't sorry. He was annoyed. "You really need to grow a thicker skin," he sighed, loosening his tie. "That's just my mother. You're being way too sensitive." I just looked at him, really looked at him, and saw a total stranger. "She called me pathetic, and you laughed." He scoffed. "Oh, come on. It was a joke. Don't be so weak." A chilling sort of calm washed over me. The tears I felt coming earlier were just gone, replaced by this profound, unnerving clarity. I gave him a small, tight smile. "You're right," I said softly. "I have been weak." Then I turned and walked away from him, out of the party, and out of the life I had tried so desperately to squeeze myself into. He called after me, his voice a mix of confusion and irritation, but I didn't look back. The girl who had walked into that party was gone for good. In her place was a woman with a purpose. The next morning, I sent a single text to Mark. "The wedding is off. I've arranged for your things to be sent to your parents." His response was a series of increasingly frantic calls. I ignored all of them, followed by a stream of arrogant texts. He told me I was overreacting, that I was throwing away the best thing that ever happened to me. He said he'd give me a week to come to my senses before he moved on. His mother sent one single, dismissive message. "I knew you didn't have what it takes." They thought I was throwing a tantrum. They couldn't imagine a world where I'd willingly walk away from their name and their money. They underestimated me. And that was their first mistake. I didn't waste a second on grief. I channeled all of that fire into research. The Preston family had a long history, and every dynasty has its ghosts. Their biggest ghost had a name: Alistair Blackwood. Alistair was their former partner, the genius who basically built their initial success. 2 decades ago, they had ruthlessly betrayed him, pushed him out, and taken everything. They left him ruined. But Alistair didn't just fade away. He vanished for a few years, then came back with a vengeance, slowly and methodically building a new empire from scratch. His company, Blackwood Industries, was now a titan of industry and a direct, terrifying competitor to Preston Corp. The Prestons lived in a state of quiet, constant fear of him. They knew he was a patient man, and they knew he had never forgiven them. He was the monster under their bed. My plan was audacious. I wouldn't just get his attention. I'd make myself indispensable to him. My job was corporate strategy, and my intimate knowledge of the Preston family, their business practices, their social circles, their hidden skeletons, was an asset no one else could possibly offer. Getting a meeting with Alistair Blackwood was next to impossible. The man was a recluse, notoriously private, so I didn't aim for him, I aimed for his company. I spent 3 weeks preparing a detailed, unsolicited proposal. It outlined a critical flaw in Preston Corp's supply chain, a vulnerability I knew they were exploiting, and a strategy for how Blackwood Industries could crush them with it. I sent it to his chief of staff, not really expecting a response. A week later, my phone rang. "Mr. Blackwood will see you." Our first meeting was in his office, a sterile, intimidating space overlooking the city. Alistair was exactly like the stories, cold, impossibly still, with eyes that seemed to see right through you. He didn't bother with small talk. He just pointed to a chair and said, "You have my attention. Explain." I didn't mention Mark or the engagement. I talked business. I laid out my strategy, citing data and internal knowledge that proved I was a true insider. He listened without a single interruption, his expression completely unreadable. When I finished, the silence was deafening. "You have a keen understanding of my enemy," he finally said, his voice a low rumble. "Why?" This was it. I met his gaze and didn't flinch. Because they were my enemy first. I was engaged to Mark Preston. His family publicly humiliated me, and he laughed along with them. I didn't cry or give him a sob story. I stated it as a fact. They called me pathetic and weak. They think I've been discarded. Their arrogance is a liability. Your arrogance is a weapon. I want to help you sharpen it. A flicker of something, interest, maybe even amusement crossed his face. "This isn't about heartbreak for you, is it?" "No," I replied honestly. "This is about retribution. We share an objective. An alliance would be mutually beneficial." That was the beginning. Our relationship wasn't a romance, it was a merger. We spent hours dissecting the Preston empire. I gave him insight into the family drama, the simmering resentments, the financial skeletons I knew they had hidden. He, in turn, started to see me not as some jilted ex-fiancé, but as a brilliant strategist. He respected my cold resolve because it was just like his own. One evening, he told me, "The Prestons saw weakness in your kindness. I see a discipline they could never comprehend." 6 months after I walked out of that engagement party, Alistair made a proposal. It wasn't on one knee with a ring. It was over a financial report in his study. "Your knowledge is invaluable, but your position is vulnerable," he said, looking up from the papers. "As my wife, you would be untouchable. Our alliance would be permanent. It is the most logical move." It was a strategic decision, the final binding contract in our shared war. I agreed without a moment's hesitation. We were married a week later at City Hall. No white dress, no cheering family. Just a shared, silent promise of the storm we were about to unleash. The Prestons' annual Legacy Gala was the biggest night of their social calendar. A ridiculous event where they celebrated their own greatness. It was the perfect stage for our debut as Mr. and Mrs. Blackwood. The moment Alistair and I walked in, the chatter in the grand ballroom just died down, like a tide pulling away from the shore. I saw them across the room. Eleanor Preston holding her champagne. A smug smile plastered on her face. Mark stood beside her, looking bored and arrogant. Then their eyes found us. I watched Eleanor's smile freeze, the glass trembling in her hand. I saw Mark's jaw go slack, the color draining from his face. He looked at me, then at the man whose arm I held, and a look of pure, primal terror took over. I wasn't the pathetic little girl they'd thrown away. I was here, in the heart of their kingdom, on the arm of their greatest fear. I hadn't just survived, I had allied myself with the one force on Earth that could actually destroy them. I gave them a small, serene smile, the same one I gave Mark before I walked out of his life, but this time, it held the promise of their complete and utter ruin. The downfall wasn't loud. It was a quiet, systematic dismantling. Armed with my inside information, Alistair launched a series of brilliant, ruthless moves. He poached their top executives. He intercepted a crucial merger they'd been working on for years. He exposed a series of financial scams to the press's story I had meticulously documented while they'd all been laughing at me. Their stock plummeted. Their friends abandoned them. The Preston name, once a symbol of power, became a synonym for scandal and failure. About a month later, my phone rang. Unknown number, but I knew. I answered and just waited. It was you. Mark's voice was a broken whisper. This was all you. He started sobbing, a thick, ugly sound. How could you? My family is ruined. We've lost everything. I've lost everything. I listened to his agony, feeling absolutely nothing. The hurt he'd caused me was gone, cauterized, leaving nothing but a scar. You didn't lose everything, Mark, I said, my voice perfectly calm and even. You simply paid a debt. You and your family built your fortune on the ruins of other people. Now it's your turn. You called me pathetic. You called me weak. You thought I'd just go cry in a corner and disappear. You were wrong. Please, he begged. I'm sorry. I'll do anything. I know, I said softly, and the finality of it just hung in the air between us. But you see, I already have everything I want. I ended the call and blocked his number for good. I stood there, looking out the window of my new home, the city lights glittering below. I hadn't married for love. I'd married for power. But in the process, I found something so much more valuable: myself. The Prestons had tried to write my story for me, to cast me as a tragic little victim. They just never imagined I would pick up the pen and write my own goddamn ending. So, what would you have done? Would you have walked away and let it go? Or would you have gotten revenge? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you enjoy stories about justice being served, make sure to like and subscribe for more.